I know people don't like the word sales, but you know, when you were trying to get a spouse, you were selling them on you. So we are all in sales every second of every day of our life.
All right. Well, welcome to the $1 Million Practice Builder Show. I'm glad you're here to do this with us. Our whole purpose here is to help everybody. Basically, we're trying to make chiropractic philosophy the dominant philosophy of healthcare in America, and the best way I can think of to do that is to make sure every single practitioner out there is as successful as possible and has a multi-million-dollar practice, whatever. Like you basically grow as quickly as possible, right? And the whole purpose of the show here is to interview people who are growing, aggressively growing their practice, whether they're $1 million now or not, or they're somewhere multi-million or whatever. Doesn't matter. I want people who are doing well so we can share that knowledge as a group with each other and kind of motivate and encourage everybody up there. I'm very happy to have you on here today, Dr. Craig McGiffin from Chesapeake, Virginia, at Core Health Solutions, right? And
yes.
Yep. And tell us a little something about yourself there, Doc.
Originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Practiced up in Pittsburgh, right outside of Pittsburgh, for about 11 and a half years. I then set up a practice in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, so I started a practice from scratch there, and I was there for 5 years. Sold that practice and opened a practice from scratch in Chesapeake, Virginia.
From scratch, okay. There you go. Mm-hmm. How long ago was that in Chesapeake you opened it up?
We opened just over 8 years ago. In fact, a few weeks ago was our 8th year anniversary.
All right, wow. Okay, so what kind of range of income is the practice in right now?
Well, for years, we were fluctuating between about $275,000 in collections and maybe $320 in collections, somewhere in that ballpark. And we just couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah, but that's changed a little recently, huh?
Yeah, and I'm happy to say that in the entire 8 years of our practice, we've never collected a healthcare insurance check. So we are 100% cash practice. We don't do Medicare. We do no insurance whatsoever.
Oh, fantastic! All right, and what do you primarily treat there?
We originally started out as a spinal decompression clinic, taking care of bulge and herniated discs. Okay. We've advanced now. As we got into spinal decompression, we added a class 4 laser to the practice. We realized that a lot of people had knee pain, so we started a knee pain niche. We do a decent amount of peripheral neuropathy between decompression and laser, some nutritionals. You can do some great things with neuropathy. We have also added a bit of a metabolic side to the practice too, working with thyroid and diabetes, some IBS type stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So doing that as all cash, you don't have to mess with the insurance stuff. That was definitely a considered decision, I assume. Mm-hmm. Because you just didn't want to go through the whole game of that.
Correct.
Okay. Would you advise other people to do that?
I would advise them, if they're an insurance practice now, to stay in insurance for the time being while you're adding in niches that are cash based. And I would transition over to that over time. And when you feel like you're ready, your practice is collecting enough non-insurance, then it's time to make the switch. But I would recommend it for the future, yes.
Yeah, kind of build. I see the same kind of thing. Build in that future, because then you're really in control of your income. It's nice to get paid today rather than, a couple of months from now, if ever.
Oh, yeah. And I took the complete leap of faith going from an insurance-based practice to strictly a cash practice and starting it from scratch with 0 patients.
Wow.
And believe me, that wasn't the easiest road, but it did make you kind of put your feet to the fire and learn quickly.
Wow. Okay. So so I'm sure there are guys who started their practice from scratch, and they're just like, how did you get your head off the pavement? How did you get to at least the 200,000 or 300,000 range?
Yeah. So we really did a lot in the very beginning of newspaper advertising, and this is in 2010, and I think the newspapers had a bit more readership back then, and we did a full page ad on the very back page of the front section of the newspaper, and we ran that religiously. We dabbled in some TV, we dabbled in some radio, and we developed pretty good systems for closing $4,000 decompression cases, and so you can, if you close enough of those, you can get to that level pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, so all right, well, what's the? I'm going to segue into this because obviously you're pretty good at closing. You must be doing cash practice, especially doing decompression. Do you follow any particular closing guidelines? Do you have a guru, like a Grant Cardone type guy? Where did you learn your closing, and what do you recommend about that?
Yeah, I think Grant Cardone would say beat them over the head until they say yes. No, actually, he doesn't. I've read a lot of his information, and I think he's brilliant at closing. But all the people I've studied and as much as I've done, I think one of the main things is that people buy you on the very first day. And so I know most chiropractors and guys who are trying to close case fees, it's normally on maybe the second or third visit that you're presenting your case fee. And if they haven't bought into you on day one, you are not going to close them on day 2 or 3. I don't care if Grant Cardone comes into the room. He is not going to get the job done. So they actually buy you on day 1, and your job on day 2 or 3 is not to blow it. All right. They're already sold. Just don't ruin it. So.
Well, how are you getting them to buy you on day 1 then? So you say you get them to buy you on day 1. What's the key to get them to just buy in on that first day that you're the guy?
Well, it even starts, and you've actually taught me some of that, is it actually starts on that first phone call. So the first phone call has to be done promptly, professionally, and present just a little bit of uniqueness in that you're already demonstrating a bit on that first phone call that you care. So I think when most people call a doctor's office, you're going to get a person on the other line whose only job is to write down the appointment date and time. And there's no real connection made there in any way at all. So staff training, you guys actually taught us a lot of that, is getting a bit of rapport and connection on that first phone call. And then when you get to day 1 and the person walks in the door, they're greeted immediately. A person walks around the desk, shakes hands with them, goes over their paperwork with them. They've got a good feeling about the place already. We started implementing just a few months ago, taking all new patients on an office tour and kind of getting them familiar with what we do in the office. We have some equipment that's very unique, and we want to show that to them. And also, so we show it to them. So we explain that we are unique, and also that our equipment is not scary, because when you first look at it, you don't know what you're in for.
I want to shoot a laser at you, sir. Stand still.
Yes, absolutely. And they do picture laser. It could burn. It could cut. It could do all these different things. So we want them to be very relaxed on day 1. And then on the initial consult, we want to gain some rapport with them before we start talking even about their problem. So I'm going to want to ask maybe a little bit about, we have a bit of a transient area here in Chesapeake because we have a huge military presence. Mm-hmm. And so I like to find out if they're from the area originally, and if they are, then what kind of changes they've seen, and, if they have kids, what schools do their kids go to, and just kind of get to know them and let them realize you're a human being as well.
Yeah.
And, so I also feel like going into a chiropractic office, if it's their first time ever to a chiropractor, they're nervous and skeptical. Those are 2 big things that they have. It's a fear of the unknown. So we want to put them at ease as soon as possible. So I'll generally get to know them a little bit, and then I'll explain to them what's going to happen today. And the main thing I want them to know is that it's not going to cost them anything additional out of pocket beyond what we've agreed upon, if that's a $47 consultation exam treatment. There's not going to be anything painful. There's nothing to be afraid of. They're absolutely going to leave at least as good a shape as they came in, and probably better. So we want them to be relaxed. And then once we have that, we really want to find out if their knee hurts. I care about their knee hurting, but I care more about what that knee pain has changed in their life. So if their knee is not allowing them to take a walk, we live not far from the beach. So if it's not allowing them to take a walk on the beach with their husband in the evening, it's not allowing them to keep up with their grandkids anymore. It prevents them from line dancing or exercise, bicycling. These are the things that I really need to know about, because that's really why they're here. Mm-hmm. And they can lay on the couch and not move, and their knee probably doesn't feel too bad. So the pain is not really the motivating factor. It's the fact that they can't do the things they wanted to do. And as far as niches go, we also do we have a weight loss niche. And so you'll find so many times when you dig into finding out more about these folks, they'll tell you that they want to get rid of their knee pain, eliminate their knee problem, because they feel like that's what's holding them back from being as active as they'd like to be, and that's why they can't get the weight off. And you end up finding that the ultimate goal was weight loss.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And so if you happen to be in a weight loss niche, then it's a very easy thing to combine helping that person's knee and also setting them up with a weight loss program. And, you actually create a much larger case. Now we've got a metabolic component to it. So we might be working with that person longer. Case fees typically going to be higher. But most importantly, they are going to get the result that they were looking for.
Yeah, that is incredible. That is actually extraordinarily well worked through, because I see the close in your office starts with hello on the phone call. Because you've not, only the last few things you actually talked about were about getting them presenting a case. They're right. Actually comfortable in the place. They're comfortable with the people. They've felt listened to and talked to. That's incredible. Yes. What percentage? What's your close rate like? Like, what percentage of folks who actually come in are you closing?
Well, I was actually just going through those numbers, and so one thing that we have seen is it does depend a bit on where the person comes from. So probably the easiest close you'll ever get is a weight loss client who has been referred by a client who's just lost 40 pounds with you and thinks you're the greatest thing on earth, because they can't help but see the changes. They're emotionally connected to that. That is not really difficult. I am probably going to get 98% of those folks signed up now. So if they're coming in completely cold off the street from an ad, we're in the neighborhood of 45 to 50% that we close. Okay. And we're getting better at that. We keep finding better and better ways. We recently, is it okay if I just turn the computer and I can kind of show you some of the changes?
Yeah, we'd be like, sure.
So as we're looking in the background, we just started to put up pictures of myself or my client, and they're holding a whiteboard that says, I was able to cancel my back surgery. 3 years of sciatic pain gone in 2 weeks. there's different stories with each whiteboard, and they're holding it up. And so now whenever, because what I wanted to create was that same feeling that a person has when they were referred by someone. And so, because they have that trust. And so if I can show them people on my wall and connect their story to them, they almost feel that connection to those people on that wall. And there's just a lot more validity behind it. So I'm already noticing just in the last month of adding that my closing rate is going up.
Right. I guess that the wall must be a big part of the office tour, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The key point to it, actually. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we keep adding more pictures to the wall, and it keeps getting better.
Good. So you obviously adopted that as a new idea recently. Where do you look to for advice and help and new ideas and things? What do you consume? Who do you follow? What's your favorite go-to training sources for yourself?
Well, I'll tell you, I added in, and I hope that we're going to get to talk a little bit more about the marketing I've done with the Customer Factory.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely address that.
Okay, I thought you might. There's a reason I'm on here, right? So,
I didn't want to be too self-serving, so I figured I would.
Hey, it's quite okay. You're allowed to be. You have my permission. But we did recently, about 3 or 4 months ago, we did hire a coaching program who, and they don't do marketing. They're more about, handling patients, protocols for treating patients. They also have a whole automated series on doing basically, it's kind of giving the person pre-education videos. So they're a very automated system on that. And they've given us some great ideas on these different types of techniques as well. So that's come together really nicely.
Cool. If I can ask, who is that you hired? I assume you recommend them. I absolutely recommend them. It's Dr. Aaron Gum with it's Blueprint to Practice Automation. Okay, cool. So, great. Yeah, I don't mind letting everybody know. That's good. If it's helped you, it's helped everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. And so do you regularly hire coaching or that kind of like marketing help or any other kind of help? Like some guys are kind of like figured out themselves guys, and some guys just reach for coaches and consultants.
Yeah, I've typically had mentors throughout my career, and some have been much more effective than others, certainly. I have definitely tried a lot of different marketing routes as well. So you name it, I've tried it almost. I'm sure there's some more out there. So coaching programs, there's ones that I've gotten a ton of value from.
Let me kind of segue from the marketing side or the closing side into like staffing and organization. How many staff do you have there?
Actually, there's my partner, and we actually, because of all the automation that we have, we only have one staff member.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So what automation do you have that gets away with all that staffing? You mentioned the follow-up stuff.
Yeah, the Blueprint to Practice Automation really made our life a lot easier because they have pre-education and follow-up education on every niche that we do. So that has definitely cut down on our need for staff. And then also with the laser that we do, the spinal decompression units that we do, those treatments actually require very little hands-on work. So once you set someone up for spinal decompression, they're basically good for the next 20 minutes. We use the laser. It's the MLS M6 from a company called Cutting Edge, and it does the treatment robotically. So you set them up and walk away, and 8 or 10 minutes later, they're done. So it doesn't really take us very much work to work with these patients. So
wow. So what does your one staff person do? Are they front desk?
She does a bit of front desk. She does some weight loss coaching for us. She does also set some patients up on some of the technology that we use. And we also, because we do a case fee, there's not a person's not paying a payment or a copayment on every visit. In fact, they usually only pay once and they're done for their program. So, and they're scheduled for weeks in advance. And so it's not like someone has to collect a payment every time a person's in and then reschedule them. We usually take care of that all at least a month in advance. And so people can basically show up at the time they're supposed to be here. We treat them. They can leave. They don't have to worry about it. They already know when their next next appointment is. So
wow, that's fantastic. So you're mostly delivery. Well, if you get your clothes right and your collections right up front, then you really don't have to worry about most people coming there just that day to get treatment.
Yeah, that's correct. Wow. Yes, and in fact, Cindy does all of our the scheduling phone calls with all of the leads that you guys generate. So she's gotten really good at that. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's remarkably efficient for you. That's cool. What have you learned? Like, okay, so let's talk about this. So let's imagine that your son or daughter, somebody's going into practice in a city nearby. What's the advice you give them? Say, okay, they say, hey, how can I grow a practice like you have? What's your top line advice? What is your okay, Padawan learner, let me teach you this. What have you learned in all these years of business that you'd pass on to somebody?
Oh boy, I guess the first thing that I would want, if I'm going to do a practice like mine that's 100% cash and we're on case fees, I would definitely want to spend some time learning how to do the proper sales process. And I know people don't like the word sales, but when you were trying to get a spouse, you were selling them on you. So we are all in sales every second of every day of our life. And it's certainly not a greasy concept. So at all, you're just helping people achieve the end result that they want. And if you're not efficient at that, then you have no chance of helping that person at all. So you want to be able to not necessarily sell, but communicate what you do effectively and help them to understand a solution to their problem. And that's really all it boils down to. So the first thing I would do is work on my communication. So if I'm coming out of school, I'm going to want to learn that. If I'm transitioning from an insurance-based practice to a cash practice, that's the perfect opportunity to perfect your sales because you've got built-in guinea pigs to practice on. So first things first, get the sales process down. Then, as many staff members as you think you're going to need, hopefully only one. Have them well trained on the things that you need. And then from there, you're going to have to get marketing that's effective. And there's just no way around that. Okay. Because if nobody's showing up, it doesn't matter how good you are at sales. It's not going to happen.
Wow, very good. So again, I asked you, is there a particular sales book or something you'd recommend, or a person or anything like that, like a source that you found really helped you?
Actually, you mentioned Grant Cardone, and I believe it was Sell or Be Sold. Yeah. I read that book back in the fall, I believe, and excellent book. Definitely a ton of information in there on doing it correctly. Cannot think of the gentleman's name that wrote the most recent book, but it's Finding Your Why.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one. I forget his
name.
So
as much as you look at things, you've probably heard of that as well.
Oh, yep.
Finding your why boils down to finding out why we do what we do, but getting back to that emotions of what the patients want, we've got to be able to find out why they want to get better as well. Mm-hmm. And so that is absolutely huge, because once we know why they want to do something, then we can help them find a solution.
Yeah, I think that's from what I've seen for long-term compliance. Now, you don't probably have the same issue because you collect up front, but guys who have repeat visitors and repeat patients, once the pain is gone, if you're not treating for the right reason, they're not going to show up anymore once the pain is gone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's correct. And we also do want to work on increasing our maintenance as well, because even though we do case fees, that doesn't mean that we don't want patients for life.
All right, so you have the one staff. Do you have any insights on training or hiring that you'd pass along to other guys?
I would say that it seems from what I've learned and what most people have explained to me, and I've been in my first practice in Pennsylvania, we had 13 or so on the average staff members.
Wow.
Around 13 staff members. We had a pretty large practice there. And everybody has always said that we take the firing process too slow and we take the hiring process too fast. So we've all been there. As anybody that's been in business, we've all been there. And I guess the great analogy I heard is, if you're driving home from the office and there's somebody from the office that's stuck in your head in a negative way as a staff member, it's time for them to go. So if you have to think about them whenever you leave the office, they've gotten too deep in your head and there's something wrong and it's time to go. Hiring, I actually, for whatever reason, I really like to trust the gut feeling that I have of that potential person. And that's served me fairly well over time. Now, when it comes to training, I think most docs get it backwards. They feel like training is probably the most optional part of the week. So if something else comes up, then we'll push training off because it's just training. When in reality, that's probably the most important hour and a half of the week that you actually spend. And it's not that staff can automatically give you that $1 million practice, but they can certainly take $1 million practice and turn it into a $100,000 practice very quickly. So, getting the proper training is really super, super important to getting there.
Wow. So how did you come to realize that about training? Was there something like you?
Yeah, it only took me about 24 years to figure it out.
Yeah, I've noticed that there are small practices and there are practices who focus on training. It's kind of like two different types of practices, right? I don't see anybody big who doesn't focus on training.
What's amazing is every time we train and we're practicing and we're honing our skills, inevitably that week, all the scenarios that we train on will show up and then they'll be handled correctly. And 2 weeks ago, it would have not been handled correctly. So it just.
All right. So how about, so in practice, what mistakes have you learned from? Like when it stands out when I ask you that?
Probably the thing that stands out most is in this practice that I'm in now, it's inconsistency in marketing is probably the biggest one. And I look back and I know a few years ago, we ran a newspaper ad for neuropathy to do just a workshop at a library, public library. And we ended up having probably 40 people at the talk. We had probably 20 people come in for exam consultation, and that 50% thing, we signed up 10 to 12 new patients from that one talk, and that was at about $4,000 a piece, and so that one talk did extremely well. It was worth $40,000. And the next month we ran an ad, similar, probably the same ad, just advertising a different library, a little different area. Our results were not anywhere near as good. We might have closed 2 cases out of that one, so maybe in the $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 range. Next month we kind of did the same thing, and as the second talk, and then we just gave up on the idea. So. Yeah. We look back and we're like, that was one of the most profitable things we've ever done. Why did we stop? And even though the second one and the third one, they still more than broke even. And for whatever reason, we just stopped doing that. And, we've had some success with some other direct newspaper ads way back when. And you kind of get away from them if you have one bad month with it. And, So, we did that with TV and radio. We had some success and then not success, and then you quit running. And so I guess what you've got to realize is, not everything is going to be a home run 100% of the time. But you do learn that the more consistent you are, the more people see your ads over and over again, they're eventually going to make that call. And you're going to catch them on a day when they're just over it and they need your help. So, you got to be there. They're familiar in your mind, and now they're calling it. And I used to think that when I heard that you need to, be in front of somebody 7 times or 9 times or whatever that magic number is, before they'll make the call. Well, I just didn't believe that, because the first time I ran a newspaper ad in a different paper, I would get phone calls. And I thought, well, I've only ran it once and they called. So why do I need to be 7 or 9 times? And I honestly thought that was a pitch by the newspaper or to get me to run 7 or 9 times.
Right.
But then I started to realize in some of the advertising events that I've done, people would say, hey, after I saw you so many times, I believed that you were for real and that you were actually really there. You weren't fly by night. So, I got to see it multiple times. I've been watching you, and they finally make the call. Yeah,
that's why Coca-Cola doesn't advertise just once and stop, or McDonald's doesn't run one TV ad and stop. All right, good. So what's an area you're going to be forcing yourself to get better in? What's your growth looking like? Where do you want to grow more?
So I've set a goal to basically just grow 10% per quarter. And I found that quarterly goals are what work for me. And I know you break those down into monthly goals and into weekly goals and then ultimately there's going to be a yearly goal. But for me, to focus on a yearly goal, it's just too far out there for me to really see it. I think if you set weekly goals and you're in the type of practice that I'm in, where it's a case fee, you're setting yourself up for absolute failure, because everybody that I talk to that does this style of practice will tell you that they might have 2 of the worst weeks ever back to back, and then week 3 they do triple of what they've ever done in a week, and all of a sudden their month looks great.
Huh.
And so weekly goals, there's just not enough there to judge by. So a monthly goal is certainly good, but a good month won't make your year at all. And it's easy to have a good month. It's easy to have a terrible month. That happens. But when you can see that quarterly growth, you really know that you're doing some things better. And so what I've seen in order to grow a practice, it's the more things that you do correctly, the practice is going to grow. there's just no way around it. And the more you take your eye off the ball, forget about staff training, don't be focused on your marketing, and the practice is going to shrink inevitably. So right now we're actually working on really focusing on more goals and also more of a vision for the office, where we want to see, kind of getting our mind wrapped around what we want our practice to look like 2 years from now.
Oh, interesting. What's that look like, if I can ask?
Yeah, well, one thing that I would like to see, I don't think we've talked about it that much yet, but I do want to see my referrals growing. And so I want to be thought of as the clinic really for the niches that we do, for knee pain, neuropathy, sciatica, bulging or herniated discs. Everybody tells me, and the buzz, and it's, if you have this problem, you're crazy if you don't go to these guys, because they're the ones that get results. And so I feel like we're starting to get there with that vision. So ultimately getting referrals is my focus for the next couple of years. Because, you know, as you well know, the more people you get in from marketing is fantastic. And then if you add that person also referring to you, that's doubly fantastic. Yeah. So you can't ever shut off the marketing. And yeah.
Right. Yeah, nothing generates referrals like lots of people having great results. And
it's very, very true. And then the one thing you don't want to forget about is don't be afraid to ask them for a referral, especially on the day that they're having a great day. They're 3 or 4 weeks into your care. They're very excited that they've been able to walk up and down the steps without pain for the first time in 5 years. And that's the perfect time to ask them, well, who else do you know that has a knee problem and can benefit from us? Who else do you know? And it seems like they like to refer the same condition they trust that. And also, I think that a lot of patients, they're not even aware that you want more new patients. They feel like, hey, maybe this guy's practice is full. It seems like it's pretty busy in here. And so, you know, when you start to just ask, hey, is there somebody we could offer a free exam to come in and just see what we do? And yeah,
it's funny. There's sort of one in the marketing sometimes, a scarcity. Say, hey, we're now accepting some new patients. You keep a little scarcity. Think, oh gosh, I'm lucky to get in. But down the referral side, that could hurt you if you don't ask them explicitly. I could see that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, good.
Hey, it's so happy. I'm so happy I could help you. So who else do you know that would like to be helped?
Oh, good. So
it's not very confrontational.
No, that you're right. When you hit them at a happy time, they'll gush. They'll tell you. You know. All right. So, well, let's see. How do you think your growth is going to be this year? Where do you think you're going to end up? You getting there?
We're significantly ahead of our 10% per quarter goal, which I'm happy to say. So we're easily on pace to double what we did last year. And so
wow. So
that was a little bit more than I was shooting for. And
10%, 100%. Well, it's just a matter of a zero.
Well, I wanted 10% a quarter, which I guess would translate to about 40% by the end of the year. But if we beat that, I'm quite happy with that.
Well, that's good. I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, we'll transition into the marketing side, the customer factory side here a little bit. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
And how would you describe yourself as a marketer? Aggressive, new? How would you describe yourself?
I guess I'm a bit of a veteran at it. I'm definitely not aggressive marketer, although I absolutely have relied on marketing in the type of practice that I'm in. And I'm becoming more of an aggressive marketer. So
okay, good. Okay, so you've been a client of ours, I think, for about 8 or 9 months. We've been sending you leads for neuropathy, back pain, sciatica, I believe. How's that been going?
Well, a little bit ago we were talking about referrals, and I was referred to you by a gentleman who had great success, and so I was pretty amazed right out of the gates at the number of leads that we got, and so you guys also, what was really great was, trained us on how to contact those leads, how to properly schedule those leads. And that was big for me because I've done some Facebook marketing before. And, it's so easy to mishandle those leads and not get near the amount of appointments show up as you wanted.
So how are the leads? What's like the quality of the person that's coming in from these? How is that?
The quality is good. And actually, Steve has been handling my particular case, and Steve's great. A month or so ago, we kind of changed a couple things with the demographics, and it made our quality of leads even better.
Yeah, that's we noticed that we changed the filtering to go up a little higher on income. To get just the right folks, because different areas have different kind of ranges, right? So
sure,
that worked out pretty well. Okay, well, let me ask you, what percentage of we get send these appointment requests over to you? There's phone calls and there's leads that come in. What percentage of those people are you actually seeing in the office?
Let's see. So we schedule somewhere, and I mean, you guys send us over 100 leads a month, so just in case anybody was wondering. And we schedule over 50% of those. We do get and the better we are on the phones, the less the percentage of no-shows are. So right now we end up getting about 1/3 of those leads in the door for a prepaid exam and consultation.
Okay, good. And what percentage of those guys turn into cases for you?
We're at right around 45 to 50%.
Okay. So
turn it in, and that's at a pretty high case fee.
Right, like over 4,000 is your case fee.
Correct.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So that would be out of 100. I messed my math. So 40% of 1/3 is 1/6, which is about 18 or 20 new patients per month. Is that right?
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah,
okay.
We've probably been about we've been closing 12 to 15 somewhere in that ballpark per month, and we're getting closer to that 18. Definitely, 20 is eventually the goal because, as you know, 20 times 4 is 80, and 80 a month turns into that magic $1 million practice.
That's right. So. 84,300 and something is the number, actually. I worked that out with my own business a while back. Like, what is the magic number per month, right?
Right.
Yeah, it should be called the $84,000 club, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good. So, you mentioned the training has been useful. That's helped you. How have you seen, how did the training help?
I guess one thing I didn't realize was how important it is to make a very fast contact when that lead comes in. And I think you guys actually taught us the psychology of that, about how much that we're in the forefront of that person's mind for 5 minutes after they submit and 15 minutes later it starts to go down, and a day later it's forgotten,
like
and
a goldfish.
And I would say also that I've used a couple other companies for Facebook advertising, and you were the first company and only company that I know of that was able to submit that lead via text message to multiple phones. And so, on weekends, I certainly don't mind myself when a lead comes in making that phone call. And I thought you guys were brilliant because you guys were told me that when you call, just say, hey, this is Dr. McGiffin. I'm the doctor on call this weekend. It's my job to contact you immediately. And, so it was brilliant stuff. And so Cindy, our staff, she doesn't mind making those phone calls either on the weekends. But when she has one of her 20 hair, nail, pedicure, all those different appointments she has every weekend, I certainly don't mind handling those leads.
That's good. Okay, good. So, okay. So I did a little math here. So if you're getting, say you're getting 12 to 15 $4,000 cases per month, you're in the kind of the $50,000 to $60,000 per month off of the marketing that we're producing. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
And you're spending our fee $1,500 plus. If you have one or two campaigns going on now, I forget if you got two.
Yeah, we've been running the sciatic or disc. And we've also been running the knee.
Okay, so you're spending about 22 plus about $5,500 a month. Sounds about what your expenses are. So
correct.
So it's fair to say you're making about a 10x return on investment in terms of direct marketing to gross income.
Correct. Cool. And that's rather consistent too. And like I was telling you, if you for us, it's about $4,000 to run a full page ad in the newspaper in our area. Mm-hmm. And so the problem with that was if you have if that ad happens to run on a bad day for whatever reason, and you spend $4,000 with the newspaper and the phones don't ring, you have an absolute dead month until the next time that ad runs again. And then you're praying that that's going to be the one where the phones light up.
Right.
So that's the thing that I have loved about what we've been doing is the consistency. It's every month we count on X amount of leads coming in. We have a formula basically now that it's down to. So the consistency is the number one thing that I like about it.
Fantastic. All right. So I've noticed doing that math. So how would you describe your growth since you started with us? You started back like last August, I think, is when you signed up officially.
Yeah. We, well, I guess whenever you get those many leads in, it takes a few months for your practice to then realize where the weak spots were. Mm-hmm. Because, that sudden growth kind of makes you find out, oh my, I still have to work on this and I got to work on this. But those are good problems to have. Don't get me wrong. Those are great problems to have. And so we're right now, we're pretty darn close to doubling what we were, our average, on the average, doubling what we were averaging, last year at this time.
Fantastic. Well, that's I'm super happy to hear that basically we're accomplishing our company's purpose with that. Mm-hmm. If I can take you who can actually get people like I imagine you've probably saved quite a few people from a surgery they were going to go endure, right, or a medication they were going to be on for life. Mm-hmm. And that is, when I hear that is why I love this kind of thing. Like if I can get you to be a $30 million a year practice, that'd be good,
Exactly.
Treat the whole area. So, all right, good. So, anything else you want to say about working with us as a company?
Just that I would really strongly recommend it. In fact, I have recommended it to several of my colleagues. And interestingly enough, John, I even recommended it to a guy who is a mile down the road from me. And because, he does different niches that I don't do. And I just said, hey, man, they're doing great for me. I don't care if you use them, you use them. And it's just been something that I've been super thrilled about. I'm so happy to be a client, to keep going, and you guys constantly are coming up with new things, which I think is great. You guys never stay stagnant. You stay on the cutting edge. And we didn't talk about it, but you guys are now coming out with an email capture and a whole email campaign. Mm-hmm. And we're strongly looking into that, which is very cutting edge and unique the way you guys are doing it. So
yeah, actually the newsletter program, you talked about, you want to be like the local guru, you want to be the local health expert. Mm-hmm. The trick to that is constantly being in front of people, but not with advertisement, but with public relations. And so right, that weekly mailing to as big a mailing list as you can get helps. I've got a client in Chattanooga. They have 7,000 or 10,000 people on their list, something like that. They are literally like the third largest publisher in Chattanooga.
Oh my God.
So they get leads just coming off of that. They got people who aren't clients. They have no idea how they got on there sometimes because they're on that title we made up, this weekend title. So it's, and we're actually going to be adding a Facebook group component to that so people can forward it around and you can just sort of own that area like a publication.
Rob told me about that.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, he's leaking the new stuff.
Yes.
All right. Well, good. So I really appreciate you being with us on the show today and all your good, kind words and all your great advice. And, I would love to have 100 just like you, out there in every community, changing healthcare, because I think that's where we're going with this if we keep doing it.
Yeah, I think you'll be at that goal very soon as well. And hey, I hope what we talked about today helps somebody. So I'm certain the people listening right now are like, oh gosh, that'll work, because they have to realize it's not complex. Building a big, huge practice is not complex. It's a few simple things right. And in my opinion, you hit on all the things. When I interview top practice builders, they all say the same thing: learn to sell, learn to train, deliver good stuff. That's it. You do those three things, all the other stuff is detail. You know? Believe me, if I can do it, anyone can, I promise you.
Oh, you're still a pretty smart cookie, but okay, good. I'll take it that. All right, good. Well, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. And if you ever need anything from me or my staff, you always get direct with me if you need to.
Okay, John, I appreciate it.
We're going to make you famous. We're going to send this out to a few thousand people. Hope you don't mind.
Awesome.
All right, friend. Thank you very much.
Okay, John. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
To get access to this and many other full shows where we cover the tactics and strategies to build your $1 million practice with people who've done it, join our private Facebook group at millionpractice.com and subscribe to our mailing list at milliondollarpracticebuilders.com. You'll be notified as soon as they're released.